Welcome to the Be Ruthless Show, where we have the conversations that other people don't, the conversations that other people won't. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and I'm ready to make a lot of noise and disrupt things, ruthlessly. Thanks for being here today. Now let's get to it. Welcome back to the Be Ruthless Show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and joining me today is a wonderful, beautiful guest, Amanda. Amanda Lease lives in Australia with her husband, and she's the proud mother of their 3 children. She's been a nurse for 25 years with a Bachelor of Nursing and a Post Graduate Diploma in Women's Health. She's currently studying a diploma of counseling while still nursing and writing. She's recently published her first book, According to Plan, Riding the Unpredictable Waves of Motherhood. By publishing her book, she endeavors to inspire others as she openly shares how her family navigates through autism, ADHD, Oppositional Defiant Disorder, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, multiple anaphylactic food allergies, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and anxiety to now thrive in this world. All topics that are often kept behind closed doors. This has now ignited a new path for Amanda as she plans how to best extend her support to others. Thank you so much for being here. And if anyone is watching this on YouTube, I apologize for my ridiculous hat. I have new ones coming, so no one else has to look silly like me.
I think it looks great. I love it.
Message, not the visual, right?
Hey, it gets your attention.
There you go.
That's great. Oh, there's my doggy.
Hi.
Oh,
Vicky, we were talking about you.
I know. She knows. Come on. Anyway, back to it.
Your story is amazing, and you're doing exactly what I'm doing, which is trying to bring topics that are not discussed out into the world so that people are more comfortable when these topics need to be talked about, which can happen to any of us anytime. So thank you.
No, my pleasure. It's been quite a journey. I'm normally a very, very quiet person, and I normally get on with life, and then all of a sudden I thought I have to share. So I started writing, and it's just gone from there. So it's been amazing. Yeah, definitely great.
So interesting. I've always written, whether it was in my journal or poems, but never ever shared it. And when I was grieving, I was writing just to heal as well. And then that led to publishing. So it's amazing to let people out there know that even if it's just getting your thoughts on paper without knowing where that leads, that can still be a huge step.
Yeah. And that's exactly, so I never wrote, I never journaled, I never did anything. The only time I ever wrote was when I had somebody very close to me and they had a birthday or a funeral or something. It would come out, and I'd just have to write it down, and I'd share it at the party or at the funeral. But writing, for me, I struggled to read and write as a child, and it was really hard. So I never did it unless I had a passion behind it. And then I started doing this when we were traveling, not knowing what it would lead to, but just wanted to start. It felt like that was the best way to touch more people, I guess. And before I knew it, I had a book. So yeah, it still spins me out.
Tell us about it. I love the title because up until trauma and difficulty in my life, I lived according to my plan.
So did I. So my childhood was beautiful. I grew up in a loving family. So I don't touch too much on that in the book. I give a bit of an intro. But my world shattered when I had kids. So pretty much from when I fell pregnant with my first child, nothing went according to plan. So the name actually came before the book. And that was the first thing that went on my, I was handwriting at this point. That was the first thing that went on my page, was according to plan, because I think everybody, as long as it may go according to plan for a very long time, but I don't know anybody that has ever had a life that has completely gone according to plan. It just, we have these dreams, expectations, society's expectations. It's just not reality. Something's going to happen, and it's just about, well, for me, definitely owning that plan that didn't work, and then moving forward from there and making sure that you thrive with whatever you've given in that life. Yeah.
And you just said you haven't always been this way. You were very quiet. And so here you are sharing your story. And I know there are people listening in the same place where thinking about sharing it on a podcast is so far out of reach. But I think everyone who has gone through anything will say that part of healing is sharing in some way.
So much. Before I even published the book, I was content. I had written, I had cried tears, I had acknowledged, accepted. I was so ready to move on, which is why I can do this now, because before there was a point where you asked me, and, you know, if I had to go back to one of those traumatic things, I would relive it. I don't relive it anymore. I can just share what I've learnt. So very much working with my psychologist many years ago, but I feel that writing was that final healing journey. And once I finished that book, didn't matter if anyone brought it or not, I was healed. But now the feedback, because we were such a quiet family, we just got on with it. Even my parents, and my father-in-law was over last night, and he's like, I love your book. I just didn't know, because you don't go and publicize it. But now that I've written it, the amount of people that reach out to you, and you can, you know, they're just so inspired, and they're like, no one talks about it. I'm like, I know, that's why I'm doing the book, and having those conversations around it. And that's what's actually led me into my next book, which is starting. But the amount of people that have said, I've always wanted to write a book. So I'm like, if I can do it, you can do it. But so I have co-authored in another book that comes out in November. That was just a chapter, and that I did in like 2 days. So that was very minor compared to writing a book. So it's like, how do I help people in their writing journey? And I thought writing a chapter is so much easier than writing a book. So my next book I'll be doing either end of it, but I'll get other mothers and be asking questions and getting them to draw on their journey in a guided way, and have them share, so that they will heal by doing it, as well as everyone else that will read it. So that's my next little adventure.
So two responses. So I did it the opposite way. I wrote a chapter in a book first.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing about that, to anyone who's even thinking this is an idea, is that you then get the community of other people going through it with you at the same time. And so now I feel much more prepared for my own book to come out into the world. But what about the people who aren't at either of those places yet, who are struggling and staying silent? How else can people share without publicly doing it the way we do?
So I've got so many ideas going around in my head right now. The other thing I want to do is, and this will help those people, is more like a little retreat. So we need to be around like-minded people. We need to know that we're not alone. All the things that you're doing with your amazing work, it's just, knowing that you're not alone, and it's okay. And that you, day by day, it's just step by step. So my idea was just to have like a retreat for women, have yoga, and so I do Elam healing as well, which is like energy healing, so I can do that for them. Having just sitting around and chatting and laughing and crying and sharing. And then I was thinking I'd do a little bit of writing, but not public writing, just them journaling and getting them into just getting from here down to here, because that's acknowledging, isn't it? Like once it's out, it's very healing. So some sort of a weekend retreat where I do all those sorts of things for them to find their people as well, because you spend a couple of days sharing your deepest, darkest moments. You bind, and then that will then carry them on to have more support once they leave as well. Yeah.
Anyone listening, even if that's a virtual retreat, if there is something you are interested in, and there's a 2 or 3 day event going on where you can connect with smaller groups of people that have that exact same interest as you, that is a step. I went to a 1-day training with Jack Canfield because he's my mentor and I adore him. But through that, I met people who have become so near and dear in my life. So I love that. Any type of retreat, it doesn't have to be about writing. It doesn't have to be about healing. Just connecting with new people and recognizing that someone will come along that you'll feel comfortable enough to share with, or maybe there's someone you're not looking at in your daily life, but having those people, I wouldn't be here.
And I think you're right. I think you really nailed it by saying even just the virtual, because sometimes when people are so in such a dark place, they can't even leave the house, you know. So the virtual side of it, even if it starts as a Facebook group and there's no face, you know, like you don't have to actually be seen, but you can be heard and you can understand that there's other people out there. That can be a really big step, because otherwise, so just that virtual side as well, which can be really powerful, because it just opens up a little door, opens up the little crack for them to get back out into other people's worlds when they're so stuck in their own. Yeah.
I was a mess, and I had originally planned to go to that one-day event with someone in Colorado with locally. And as it got so closer, I was like, I need somebody with me that I can lean on, that I feel safe with. And my mom flew in and went with me, but we don't all have that. You know, if there's something that does seem too overwhelming, simplify it, break it down, and find a way to do it. Because if she wouldn't have come in, going with somebody else wouldn't have been a good experience for me. So
yeah. And it's the same with the book. Like, they don't have to leave the house to get my book, and they can read it in their own time, and there's no one watching them, or, you know, and I think that's why I was drawn to write, because it's something they can just have and read and do what they're doing without anyone else. You know, it's just that first little step in to their lives. Yeah.
You cover multiple things that by themselves are overwhelming, right? Not just, I live with anxiety. It's not just anxiety. So that, and I think that speaks to the world also. We don't have just one thing going on at a time.
Yeah. And oh God, yeah, we just tag teamed for years. Like, it was just, you'd have one good and the next one would go. It'd just be like watching where the next fire was going to be, and it was just putting out fire after fire after fire with the 3 kids, and all those diagnoses are broken up into all the 3 kids. So we have overlaps as well, but yeah, it was full on.
Well, even before we started recording, we were talking about our dogs, and even just the positive experience of getting an animal led to an anaphylactic reaction, which I'm
very rare.
To the story.
Yeah. And so, it just, I think we stopped talking about what was happening in our lives, because no one could really understand. Like, it just didn't stop for us from when Emily was born. And when you read the book, you'll see. And when I wrote it and proofreading it, and I had to read it all in, like, you know, a few days. So I'm just reading over and over again about my life. I was so sick of reading about my life. It was ridiculous. I just wanted the thing published. But it just, it was just constant. And just to give people that hope that it's okay, you know, whatever you've got going, it's just taking a day at a time, and then doing those really little steps to get through, and not looking at I couldn't look beyond what was in front of me, because I just had to deal with what was right there, because it was so constant. And it was crazy.
What did you guys have besides each other? Did you have any other resources?
Yeah, we did. Okay. We did. So, like, school was a really difficult part of the kids' lives. The first school was not very supportive, and so we had to find a new school, and the new school that we found, and I went out and interviewed the schools. It wasn't the other way around, which was very powerful, and I found a school that was great for the kids. And so having that school support is amazing, very much next level. I also had parents, so me and Scotty lived about 9 hours away from the rest of our family. So we lived in England for a couple of years before we had kids, and we met people in England that we lived with, came back to Queensland. So the rest of our family was quite far away. So we didn't have the family support till, I think, till Joshy was born, and he was probably about 6 months old. But when I had Emily, so that's my first, I found 2 girlfriends that are lifelong friends, and they were definitely my support. So they definitely were massive, and they were my rock. Besides like Scotty, they definitely got me through, and we're still bestest friends. And you know, when I published the book, we went for a bushwalk and had a bowl of champagne at the end of it. And you know, we're just, yeah, I could not have done it without them. Then you have your mums at school. So obviously you're quite isolated when your kids are, you know, making scenes at school and all that sort of stuff. So you very quickly gravitate to the same mothers that are going through the same things. And I'm still friends with the mums from that first school. Although the school wasn't good, the support from the families were. So they've carried through right to now as well. And we all still, like one of them especially, has travelled all over Australia with her family, and we still talk regularly and are always there. And nothing surprises us because we all know what we're going through. So you need those people that you can just ring up and go, oh my God, this just happened. Oh yeah, my daughter did that about that time. And there's just no judgment. It's just that open relationship. So I definitely had a lot of support, which not everybody has.
That's a great way to look for it, because interviewing the schools or your doctors or whoever, recognizing that you are hiring someone is huge. So to anyone listening, if your needs aren't being met, that's the first.
Don't stay there.
But finding the other moms, finding the other people going through it, it isn't just happening to you. If your child's needs aren't being met, then there is someone else who has been there. And whether that's asking the counselor, how did you recognize who to turn to?
Intuition for me is a big thing. It's something I didn't listen to for a long time. Mm-hmm. As my journey went on, I listened more and I now listen a whole lot more. So look, my journey, even when people say, how did you do that? How did you do that? I think we all have that. We all have that intuition. We all, and you talk about it too. You know, you knew what you needed. So I very much started listening to and even when we changed schools, I went against what everyone said. The professionals, the pediatricians, the psychologists, the schools. They were like, no, wait till the end of the year. And I was like, no. Sorry, but I'm leaving now.
I love that. And even if this one teacher is amazing and they have no power or ability to solve this problem, but I feel close enough to talk to them. They might know someone. Whoever you are interacting with in a great way is a person, because there's always been one person I can find at a school, and they'll know something I wouldn't think of, or point me in a direction I wouldn't have come up with on my own. So,
and there's so many different paths to leading your kids through this journey. I was always happy to listen to anyone. Like, give me whatever you got, I'll listen to it and I'll take what I need. So the more people that you speak, I mean, we have gone, like, the book does it so much better than what I can do in a short little stint, but we just did not give up. If something didn't work, we'd go, right, what's next? If that didn't work, okay, how do we go from here? And you know, the right way through, even after like a decade, we were doing everything. We thought we were doing everything we could, but things still weren't working. And we had to make really dramatic changes. And that was when we picked up and took the family away for 12 months and traveled. So, you know, we were being positive. We were having psychology. We were doing the social skills. And it wasn't enough. So no matter how many things you've tried, keep going, because you will find something. It's just that never giving up day by day. And that was definitely the turning point for us, I feel, when we did that trip.
And I'm blown away that you did it on your own. To anyone listening, finding someone to advocate along the way, it's not right, but at least in the United States, I get further than a parent can when I'm advocating for their student, and it shouldn't be that way. Nobody knows their child better than you, but two of us together and having somebody there to be your cheerleader when it feels like giving up, because you can be given all the answers and be told we've tried everything, and that isn't the end. but you don't know what else to do. So I think it's important to recognize that it's okay if you don't know those steps, and enlisting anyone to say, help me figure this out is a step.
Yeah. And that's that whole circling around the people that are going through the same things. So even, you know, mothers that we've met, and a lot of them are single mums, it's like an 80% divorce rate for autistic parents, which is massive. I know it's high statistically anyway, but 80%. And then you're trying to deal with, you know, the kids need stability, and the, you know, parents are breaking up. And so there's a lot of single parents out there. So I used to even support them by going to a meeting with them, with the school, just to have that support person, because you can't do it alone. Like, I cannot imagine doing it alone. I'm sure there's people that probably do give it a go, but boy, it's easier if you've got someone beside you, you know.
And I even had a guest on who was talking about doing it herself, but she's in the field, so she has more resources, right? To the average parent. And I was explaining that it's not that I don't want my clients to be able to do it themselves. It's that I want to be there with them to make sure they don't miss anything or get steered in the wrong direction until they're strong enough to do it on their own.
Yeah,
I think that
it's building them up to succeed, isn't it? You know, and it's the same with the kids. You want to be there so that they can eventually do it on their own. If you just throw them out there to the wolves, they don't have much chance. But you guide them and you show them, and you know, let them see how you do it, and then you're setting them up to succeed and not causing more trauma, or, you know, that to that point where they go, I just can't do it. You don't want to get them to a breaking point. You want to get them before then and guide them, you know. So I think it's really that setting them up to succeed in whatever you're doing, whether it be with your girlfriends or your kids, or I mean, I think humans
know now, I don't remember their ages, but do they know now to be able to, you know, like to ask to call home, or do they have the tools to reach out when they are in school away from you as well?
Yeah, they're doing so amazing. Like, now we've got new first world problems. So my son, my middle boy, so they told us he would probably never talk. That was our diagnosis at about 3 years old. He probably will never talk. He does talk, and he talks very well. And he always struggled to have friends. And, you know, he's since coming back from traveling, he's got friends. No one wants to be out with them all the time. And we're like, oh, what do you mean? You anyway, so now we're dealing with all these normal parenting things. And it's like, you want to stay out till 7 o'clock? I don't know, but ring your father. I'm not sure about this. And then Scotty will ring me and go, are we okay with this? I'm like, it's very new. It's what we've always wanted. So now it's a whole new ball game with them doing normal school, like normal kid stuff and socializing. But they definitely have the tools now. And it was like, you get told, you just got to repeat for like years and years and years. And then it finally, I mean, that 12 months that we were away, we just were able to just love them and guide them so much because we were with them 24/7. When we came back from that 12 months, they were off.
I love that. I feel like that's the year I took off. The world did not like that choice.
Yeah.
Everybody has something to say, but you knew what you needed and they're thriving now. I love that.
Yeah. So when we were packing up and leaving, and everybody was just like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, we need to do this. And like, I remember we rented out our house. Scotty said, I'm happy to do it, but I don't want to sell because we don't know how it's going to go, which we didn't. My kids don't like change. We're going to chuck them in a caravan and drive around and change every day. It had the plan to go wrong. We didn't count on COVID kicking in the year that we left, but that's okay. So by the time we were renting out, we had to do all the stuff to get the house rented. And this guy came in and he was doing a pest inspection. And he was like, oh, whose caravan's out front? I said, oh, we're moving into it. He's like, he just stared at me. And I was like, it's like, you're moving into a caravan. And I was like, we're going to 12 months probably. We'll see what happens. And he was like, you're leaving this house to move into that caravan by choice. I was like, yes. and I'm so excited. And he was just staring at me. He's like, I don't understand that. He's like, I don't understand that, and which is fine. He didn't know what we were going through or what we were doing, but the amount of people were like, are you crazy? And then we parked the caravan out on the street because it wouldn't fit under our carport. And the amount of people that were coming past, they're like, oh, he's going somewhere. Like, yeah, we're packing. No, just, oh my God, you've got 2 teenagers. You've got 3 kids and you're going to live in this. Like, it was just, we went against all the social norms. We had good jobs. We were financially doing well. We lived in a beautiful house with a pool and like everything that everybody would want, but it was not what we needed. So we totally went against the grain. Yeah. And it was the best thing we ever did.
Even people saying wait until the end of the year, right? Like, we hear that is the better way. And I have someone who isn't ready to share a story yet, but called me dealing with the same. Their child was suffering and struggling in an environment that wasn't going to change or work with them. And why wait? How are you going to prolong that 4 more months? She's doing so amazing now.
Isn't that the definition of stupidity?
Like, why do we have to wait until a certain date? That I love that you did that. And most people feel like it's wrong. Look at your kids, listen to them. Were they telling you, or were you observing the behavior?
When we changed schools?
Yeah. I mean, their needs weren't being met, but were they also unhappy and verbalizing it?
Yeah, so Emily was, and for a child, so she's Asperger's now, it's ASD, and she had severe anxiety. So she started medication when she was 6. That's how bad her anxiety was. So she wanted to leave and she was very verbal about it. And I was like, we were going to go traveling for 8 weeks. So in our camper trailer with friends and with a whole group of friends. So we thought that we'll see what happens, being away for 2 months and then coming back, it might be a bit of a restart. Things didn't change, of course. So she was very verbal. She didn't care what school, she just wanted to leave. But I also had Hayden, who was also struggling, and he did not want to leave. So I had to we had to put on our big girl panties and work out what was best for the family. And we did decide we did move. And she was like, I'll make new friends, Mum. It's fine. And for an autistic kid, that's massive. But we moved them both and they both thrived. And then I remember Hayden still saying when he moved, he had a few issues settling, but overall was 100% better. And another little girl was going to go to the school he was going to, that we'd come from. And he was like, Mum, I told her, no, don't go there. And I went, oh, buddy, I said, it might work for her. I said, that school didn't work for you and it didn't work for Emily. I said, everybody has different needs. I said, you can't judge the school for everybody, so he was once he moved, he was so happy that he moved. But it was just finding the right school for them.
But I think it's a huge piece that you were listening to them. And I think that oftentimes we're also told that the teachers are right and that they know better and the schools have a system that works. And so having these conversations with your kids and just hearing how they're doing and if they're struggling, even if it's just they're not sleeping well, that tells me something is going on. And so that's an important piece that I think needs to be emphasized, that before you do anything, just listen. They know. And if they're unhappy, they can express it.
I think people don't listen to their kids enough. I think they think that being an adult, we have to know everything. We don't know everything, and there's such an they are so in tune with themselves, probably more than most adults. So when your child is telling you something, you really need to prick your ears up and listen. Obviously, we still have that role as being their parents, but they should definitely be. So even when we did this trip, I text Scotty one day and said, I'm done. I want to sell everything. I want to get out of here. And he was like, bad morning. I was like, yes. And he texts back, we'll talk tonight. So we obviously had our discussions and to work out whether we could financially do it and how we would do it and how that would look. And then once we, navigated that, then we sat the kids down and said, what do you guys think? This is what we're thinking. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. And they're like, can we get a bigger van? Because we only had a tiny van at that point. I'm like, yes. Which way are we going to go? We're going to go north or we're going to go south? Like, so all the questions came, but they very much needed to be involved. There's no way we could have done that trip if they didn't want to do it.
Absolutely.
It just, yeah.
Even things like their room and decorating, they need to be, it's their life. They're a part of it. So I love that they were included and that they felt comfortable enough to be honest and to speak up. That's the piece that we have to make time to hear them. And the teachers are not always right. And they'll tell you that. And if the school is resisting you, then that's not okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's, it's such a journey.
Where do people get the book, especially for anybody listening in the US? Is there how do we get it here?
The book?
Yes.
Yes, it's on Amazon. So just, I think for you guys, it's just amazon.com, not any of the AU or UK or, so it's on there. It's only been out a couple of weeks. Check out the reviews. It's been so amazing. Like waking up to reviews on Amazon is just like my new favorite thing. And then just all your messages from people locally that are purchasing it and loving it. It's so beautiful. It's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. And when you have this idea in your head and what you think it might do for people and it starts doing it and you get to sit back and just enjoy that, it's amazing. So yeah.
It's only just begun. Congratulations. We will put link. We'll put both links in case people are listening anywhere. But what's the name again? And how do people find you?
So According to Plan, Writing the Unpredictable Waves of Motherhood is the book. You can find me I've got an email address at accordingtoplan.amandalees@gmail.com or Facebook, just Amanda Lees, and Instagram is accordingtoplan.amandalees as well. So I'm not that savvy with social media. I'm getting better. I'm trying, but bear with me. I literally opened up an Instagram account when my book was launched 2 weeks ago. And gone from there. So I'm venturing out and trying all different new things and watch this space.
If there's a mom listening that connects, and is that the best way to, is there an email or a way?
Email, yeah. I'm working on a website, so that'll be my next thing, and just allowing people to reach out. And I love what you do with that one-stop shop type that you're doing. I was like, I need to do that for autistic kids because I've learned so much and there's so much knowledge. So anyway, that's another thing going on. But yeah, just that support that you give for grieving as well. It's something that I think would be really valuable for anyone going. This autistic journey is just such a maze, and you get the diagnosis and then it's like navigating through this maze of where do I go now and who do I see and what do I do? And there's so many aspects of it. We haven't even touched on the diet and the supplements. It's just massive. So it's very easy to be overwhelmed.
I have a client that I've worked with. I mean, they're back in Michigan, if that tells you. I'm now in Colorado, but I've always kept in touch with the family. And one of her children is autistic and she has more knowledge and resources than I do. I will go to her for it. So that's an amazing idea. And there's so much need. And I think that people know, like you don't know where to start, and people who have been there and done it can give you little shortcuts.
And walking the walk is you go to, and I love my pediatrician and we've had the same one the entire time, but he doesn't have children, let alone children with autism. And it's very easy to say, oh, that's autism. Like, no, I just wasn't happy with that. And then, so you live with it every day, and a pediatrician can say, yeah, you need to do this, or you need to do that. Even, no offense, even psychologists will say, you need to do this, you need to do that. That's great. But when you've got one having a meltdown over there, another one over there, and another one over there, and you're trying to cook dinner, and like, how do you make that work? And it's until you like fully walk that walk, it's very easy to say, you just need to do this, and you just need to do that. So I think just having that connection with people, and if they read my book, nothing's going to scare me. We've pretty much, I won't be, and I say that to people all the time now, just because they'll be like, oh, and I'm like, you're not going to turn me off. Like, just hit me with it. There's no judgment from me. I really, tell me what you're feeling, what's happening, and I will not judge. I will just support, that sort of stuff.
And that's and it feels so alone and isolating, like no one could possibly understand. And if you're listening and you feel that way, I get it. There is someone. It might not be either of us right now, but there is someone and someplace that will understand you. And finding that will be such a big gift. So like I said, even that, just a Facebook group for dog lovers, any type of step forward is a big step.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Any last thoughts for everyone listening before we go?
Anyone listening, just be kind to yourself. I think once you start being kind to yourself, it's a lot easier to be kind to others, and that can change the world as well. I think just you really need to start with yourself, and don't be so hard on yourself. You're doing the best you can. We're all doing the best we can. Just be kind to yourself and start there. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm going to add patient.
Yes.
Like we have these imaginary timelines that we put in our heads that I should be at this point by this time. And that was my own, even with the world wasn't putting it on me. I was doing it to myself.
And it's often us, isn't it? It's often our own, we can say, oh, society makes us think like this, but a lot of it's us. And that's where it's just got to start with you. And I was the same. I had all these expectations of how I should have been a mother and what my kids should be doing. If they're not doing that, well, then that's my fault because I'm their mother. And I was so hard on myself. And then just, allowing yourself to be kind to yourself. And yes, it's not going to all be solved in one day. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to know that you're not going to give up. That's, yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, according to plan, the
riding the unpredictable waves of motherhood.
Remember that, because my picture for Grief Hab is the wave. Connect. And thank you so much for sharing your time and your story. Everyone,
my pleasure.
Live, it is Jim's birthday, so happy birthday to you.
Oh, happy birthday. And look at you doing this.
Next time, always be ruthless. Thanks so much for listening today. Your support means everything to me, truly. If this podcast resonates with you, please do me a favor and join in the Ruthless movement by making some noise and doing one of these 4 things. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Tell a friend so we can break stigmas even faster. Leave a review so people can see what you think of the show. And last, if you want to learn more about me and be a part of the Grief Hab community, please head on over to the Facebook group. We'd love to have you. Thanks again for spending your time with us, and see you next week.